issue, and Mark, who is with us yet again. And most of them actually said that they would vote for Hillary Clinton if they were casting votes in the United States of America. And Mark is with us online. He is an economist for Africa and Middle East with Bloomberg, and he's going to talk to us more about this. Well, Mark, getting back to you, looking at the volatility in the market, do you think the dollar is going to stabilize, say, in a few days, a few weeks, or you think this is going to go on into next year?
Oh, it's hard to tell. I mean, the dollar, of course, this, does raise uncertainty about the U.S. economy, but with the U.S. economy being the largest economy in the world, it also, raises doubts about the global economy, and the U.S. dollar is still among the major safe haven assets. So you see the yen is strengthened, people pulling back investment money from more risky places back to Japan, and you could also see that in the US. So it's a bit difficult to say what the dollar outlook will be. I think this is a slightly different scenario to the Brexit, where a lot of the US, a lot of UK economy is seen as being tied to the sort of passporting, selling to financial services to Europe, and also the UK economy had a very much larger current account deficit, and things like shale oil has now put the US economy in a better position and less dependent on financial inflows.
Right.
And perhaps, Mark, allow me to jump in. Of course, a lot of observers are saying Donald Trump is inheriting an economy that is already gathering some steam. If you look at recent developments, the Federal Reserve Bank did not make a hike on the rates, really. And from where you sit, what is in Donald Trump's entry right now as he takes over the mantle of leadership in the United States?
Yes, I think he will have to deliver on spreading the wealth from the sort of elite, the sort of top 1%, top 5%. So I think that will be in focus. Maybe, people are prepared to give him some time period to get his policies in shape, but I think you'll have to see something on this, at least, within, the first 2 years or so, but it'll be difficult. It'll be a challenge for him to deliver material benefits for sort of the other 95% or 99% or whatever you want to call him. I think the statement he made during the acceptance speech about sort of infrastructure investment was positive. It's something that other people, also, on other sides of the political spectrum, like Paul Krugman is a Nobel Prize laureate who's, in the New York Times, quite a very different perspective from Trump. He's also talked that, the Treasury, the US government should be doing this, improving the infrastructure, and also Larry Summers, who was in both the Bill Clinton and the Obama administration, has been talking about that. So I think this is, areas that Trump could move forward on more quickly than, for instance, trade, where I think a lot of policies will be more difficult to push through, and the risk is that the initial impact will actually be negative, and the positive or potentially positive impact will come a lot further forward, further into and beyond this 4-term mandate that he's currently been given.
Just a follow-up, Mark, before we get to another question, really. Of course, we've seen the Democrats were quite optimistic in terms of having Hillary win this election. And what does this Trump presidency mean when it comes to Obamacare? Because you know pretty well the Republicans have taken a divided stance in this particular matter, and it touches on millions of lives of Americans.
Well, I'm not a US political analyst. I can't really speak in depth or with really any real expertise about that. But of course, Trump has come out very strongly against Obamacare during his campaign, and also I think there's a lot of opposition to Obamacare within all of the Republican Party. So I don't think the prospects for Obamacare look particularly good at the moment. So I can't really say much more than that.
All right, Mark. Donald Trump promised 25 million jobs over the next decade. Is this realistic? We've seen the same thing happening with Brexit. During Brexit, we saw Boris Johnson saying, a lot of immigrants are occupying jobs that should be, jobs that are for people living in the United Kingdom. And Donald Trump has actually taken the same stance as well. He says that most of the jobs in the manufacturing sector, for instance, in the United States are occupied by immigrants or people from the third world countries. So do you think that 25 jobs in the next decade is a realistic promise?
I think it will be very difficult to deliver that, but if you can make some progress on that, I think that will definitely, improve his chances of getting re-elected. But I mean, a lot of these jobs, I mean, both in the UK and the US, are jobs that nationals have not been prepared to take at those salaries. So maybe you will have to actually push up salaries for nationals to accept some of these jobs. Having US agriculture, very hard jobs, hard physically strainful jobs, paying very low salaries. And there have been research or studies showing that these jobs actually create more jobs for Native Americans than they actually take away. So these are some of the factors that the Trump administration will have to take into account.
Final question, Mark. In regard to international trade, Donald Trump says he was seeking to review the North American Free Trade Agreement, and because he thinks it's not realistic. He's also talked about the Trans-Pacific Partnership that he thinks, needs to be reviewed as well. But do you think that he's probably creating enemies just by saying that he doesn't see the need to have the Trans-Pacific Partnerships as one way of growing international trade?
I think this will definitely complicate bilateral relations with partners and, in Asia and other regions of the world. And I think, of course, tariffs might potentially create jobs over the longer term, over the coming decade. But if you raise tariffs, for instance, against Mexico and China, so the initial impact is likely to be an increase in prices, and this will hit, this sort of Trump constituency, the people that voted for Trump. They've already seen an erosion of their buying power over the past decades, really. And if you see this increase in, for instance, iPhones, smartphones, manufacturing in China, this means that their buying power will be even weaker, and that could, provide a backlash towards Trump. So I think he will be stepping carefully in that arena.
All right. Many thanks there, Mark Boland, joining us live from London. And he is an economist with Bloomberg, just giving us his views regarding this election results following the Americans going to the ballot.